Welcome back to Nightlight Audio. Tonight we return to The Old Pipes and the Dryad by Frank R. Stockton. And if you have a moment for a quick like and subscribe, it really helps out a lot. Old Pipes was greatly delighted when he understood that he really was a younger man, but that made no difference about the money, and he kept on his way to the village. As soon as he reached it, he was eagerly questioned as to who had been playing his pipes the evening before, and when the people heard that it was himself, they were very much surprised. Thereupon, Old Pipes told what had happened to him, and then there was greater wonder, with hearty congratulations and handshakes, for Old Pipes was liked by everyone. The chief villager refused to take his money, and although Old Pipes said that he had not earned it, everyone present insisted that, as he was now playing on his pipes as before, he should lose nothing, because, for a time, he had been unable to perform this duty. So Old Pipes was obliged to keep his money, and after an hour or two spent in conversation with friends, he returned to his cottage. There was one individual, however, who was not at all pleased with what had happened to Old Pipes. This was an echo dwarf, who lived on the hills on the other side of the valley, and whose duty it was to echo back the notes of the pipes whenever they should be heard. There were a great many other echo dwarfs in these hills, some of whom echoed back the songs of maidens, some the shouts of children, and others the music that was often heard in the village. But there was only one who could send back the strong notes of the pipes of Old Pipes, and this had been his sole duty for many years. But when the old man grew feeble, and the notes of his pipes could not be heard on the opposite hills, this echo dwarf had nothing to do, and he spent his time in delightful idleness. And he slept so much and grew so fat that it made his companions laugh to see him walk. On the afternoon, which after so long an interval, the sound of the pipes was heard on the echo hills, this dwarf was fast asleep behind a rock. As soon as the first notes reached them, some of his companions ran to wake him. Rolling to his feet, he echoed back the merry tune of Old Pipes. Naturally, he was very much annoyed and indignant at being thus obliged to give up his life of comfortable leisure, and he hoped very much that this pipe playing would not occur again. The next afternoon, he was awake and listening, and sure enough, at the usual hour, along came the notes of the pipes, as clear and as strong as they had ever been, and he was obliged to work as long as Old Pipes played. The echo dwarf was very angry. He had supposed, of course, that the pipe playing had ceased forever, and he felt that he had a right to be indignant at thus being deceived. He was so much disturbed that he made up his mind to go and try and find whether this was to be a temporary matter or not. He had plenty of time, as the pipes were played but once a day, and he set off early in the morning for the hill on which Old Pipes lived. It was hard work for the fat little fellow, and when he crossed the valley and had gone some distance into the woods on the hillside, he stopped to rest, and in a few minutes the Dryad came tripping along. "Ho, ho!" exclaimed the dwarf. "What are you doing here, and how did you get out of your tree?" "Doing?" cried the Dryad. "I am being happy. That is what I am doing. And I was let out of my tree by the good old man who plays the pipes to call the cattle down from the mountain, and it makes me happier to think that I have been of a service to him. I gave him 2 kisses of gratitude, and now he is young enough to play his pipes as well as ever." The echo dwarf stepped forward, his face pale with passion. "Am I to believe," he said, "that you are the cause of this great evil which has come upon me, and that you are the wicked creature who has again started this old man upon his career of pipe playing? What have I ever done to you that you should have condemned me for years and years to echo back the notes of those wretched pipes? At this, the Dryad laughed loudly. "What a funny little fellow you are," she said. "Anyone would think you had been condemned to toil from morning till night, while what you really have to do is merely to imitate for half an hour every day the merry notes of old pipes playing. Fie upon you, Echo Dwarf, you are lazy and selfish, and that is what is the matter with you. Instead of grumbling at being obliged to do a little wholesome work, which is less, I am sure, than any other Echo Dwarf upon a rocky hillside, you should rejoice at the good fortune of the old man, who has regained so much of his strength and vigour. Go home and learn to be just and generous, and then, perhaps, you may be happy. Goodbye." "Insolent creature," shouted the dwarf, as he shook his little fist at her. "I'll make you suffer for this. You shall find out what it is to heap injury and insult upon one like me, and to snatch from him the repose which he has earned by long years of toil." And shaking his head savagely, he hurried back to the rocky hillside. Every afternoon, the merry notes of the pipes of old pipes sounded down into the valley, and over the hills and up the mountainside, and every afternoon, when he had echoed them back, the little dwarf grew more and more angry with the Dryad. Each day, from early morning till it was time for him to go back to his duties upon the rocky hillside, he searched the woods for her. He intended, if he met her, to pretend to be very sorry for that which he had said, and he thought he might be able to play a trick upon her, which would avenge him well. One day, while thus wandering among the trees, he met Old Pipes. The Echo Dwarf did not generally care to see or to speak to ordinary people, but now he was so anxious to find the object of his search that he stopped and asked Old Pipes if he had seen the Dryad. The piper had not noticed the little fellow, and he looked down on him with some surprise. "No," he said, "I have not seen her, but I have been looking everywhere for her." "You," cried the dwarf, "what do you wish with her?" Old Pipes then sat down on a stone, so that he should be nearer the ear of his small companion, and he told of what the Dryad had done for him. When the Echo Dwarf heard that this was the man whose pipes he was obliged to echo back every day, he would have slain him on the spot had he been able. But, as he was not able, he merely ground his teeth and listened to the rest of the story. "I am looking for the Dryad now," Old Pipes continued, "on account of my aged mother. When I was old myself, I did not notice how very old my mother was, but now it shocks me to see how feeble and decrepit her years have caused her to become. And I am looking for the Dryad to ask her to make my mother younger, as she made me." The eyes of the Echo Dwarf glistened. Here was a man who might help him in his plans. "Your idea is a good one," he said to Old Pipes, "and it does you honour. But you should know, a Dryad can make no person younger but one who lets her out of her tree. However, you can manage the affair very easily. All you need to do is to find the Dryad, tell her what you want, and request her to step into her tree and be shut up for a short time. Then you will go and bring your mother to the tree, and she will open it, and everything will be as you wish. Is this not a good plan?" "Excellent," cried Old Pipes. "Then I will go instantly and search more diligently for the Dryad." "Take me with you," said the Echo Dwarf. "You can easily carry me on your strong shoulders, and I shall be glad to help you in any way that I can." "Now then," said the little fellow to himself, as Old Pipes carried him so rapidly along, "if he persuades the Dryad to get into the tree, and she is foolish enough to do it, and then goes away to bring his mother, I shall take a stone or a club, and I will break off the key of the tree, so that nobody can ever turn it on again. And then goes away to bring his mother, I shall take a stone or a club, and I will break off the key of the tree, so that nobody can ever turn it again. Then Mistress Dryad will see what she has wrought upon herself by her behaviour to me." Before long, they came to the great oak tree in which the Dryad had lived, and, at a distance, they saw the beautiful creature herself coming toward them. "How excellently well everything happens," said the dwarf. "Put me down, and I will go. Your business with the Dryad is more important than mine, and you need not say anything about me having suggested the plan to you. I am willing that you should have all the credit for yourself." Old Pipes put the Echo Dwarf down upon the ground, but the little rogue did not go away. He concealed himself between some low, mossy rocks, and he was so much of their colour that you would not have noticed him if you had been looking straight at him. When the Dryad came up, Old Pipes lost no time in telling her about his mother, and that what he wished her to do. At first, the Dryad answered nothing, but stood looking very sadly at Old Pipes. "Do you really wish me to go into my tree again?" she said. "I should dreadfully dislike to do it, for I don't know what might happen." "It is not at all necessary, for I could make your mother much younger at any time, if she would give me the opportunity. I had already thought of making you still happier in this way, and several times I have waited about your cottage, hoping to meet your aged mother, but she never comes outside, and you know a Dryad cannot enter a house. I cannot imagine what has put this idea into your head. Did you think of it yourself?" "No, I cannot say that I did," answered Old Pipes. "A little dwarf whom I met in the woods proposed it to me." "Oh," cried the Dryad, "now I see through it all. It is the scheme of that vile Echo Dwarf, your enemy and mine. Where is he? I should like to see him." "I think he has gone away," said Old Pipes. "No, he has not," said the Dryad, whose quick eyes perceived the Echo Dwarf among the rocks. "There he is. Seize him and drag him out, I beg of you." Old Pipes perceived the dwarf as soon as he was pointed out to him, and, running to the rocks, he caught the little fellow by the arm and pulled him out. "Now then," cried the Dryad, who had opened the door of the great oak, "just stick him in there, and we will shut him up, and then I shall be safe from his mischief for the rest of the time that I am free." Old Pipes thrust the Echo Dwarf into the tree. The Dryad pushed the door shut. There was a clicking sound of bark and wood, and no one would have noticed that the big oak had ever had an opening in it. "There," said the Dryad, "now we need not be afraid of him, and I assure you, my good Piper, that I shall be very glad to make your mother younger as soon as I can. Will you not ask her to come out and meet me?" "Of course I will," cried Old Pipes, "and I will do it without delay." And then, the Dryad by his side, he hurried to his cottage. But when he mentioned the matter to his mother, the old woman became very angry indeed. She did not believe in Dryads, and if they really did exist, she knew they must be witches and sorceresses, and she would have nothing to do with them. If her son had ever allowed himself to be kissed by one of them, he ought to be ashamed of himself. As to its doing him the least bit of good, she did not believe a word of it. He felt better than he used to feel, but that was very common. She had sometimes felt that way herself, and she forbade him to ever mention a Dryad to her again. That afternoon, Old Pipes, feeling very sad that his plan in regard to his mother had failed, sat down upon the rock and played upon his pipes. The pleasant sounds went down to the valley and up the hills and the mountain, but, to the great surprise of some persons who happened to notice the fact, the notes were not echoed back from the rocky hillside, but from the woods to the side of the valley on which Old Pipes lived. The next day, many of the villagers stopped in their work to listen to the echo of the pipes coming back from the woods. The sound was not as clear and as strong as it used to be when it was sent back from the rocky hillside, but it certainly came from among the trees. Such a thing as an echo changing its place in this way had never been heard of before, and nobody was able to explain how it could have happened. Old Pipes, however, knew very well that the sound came from the echo dwarf shut up in the old oak tree. The sides of the tree were thin, and the sound of the two pipes could be heard through them, and the dwarf was obliged, by the laws of his being, to echo back the notes whenever they came to him. But Old Pipes thought he might get the Dryad in trouble if he let anyone know that the echo dwarf was shut up in the tree, and so he wisely said nothing about it. One day the two boys and the girl who had helped Old Pipes up the hill were playing in the woods. Stopping near the great oak tree, they heard a sound of knocking from within it, and then a voice plainly said, "Let me out, let me out." For a moment the children stood still in astonishment, and then one of the boys exclaimed, "Oh, it is a Dryad, like the one Old Pipes found. Let's let her out." "What are you thinking of?" cried the girl. "I am the oldest of all, and I am only 13. Do you wish to be turned into crawling babies? Run, run, run." And the two boys and the girl dashed down into the valley as fast as their legs could carry them. There was no desire in their youthful hearts to be made any younger than they were, and for fear that their parents might think it well that they should commence their careers anew, they never said a word about finding the Dryad tree. As the summer days went on, Old Pipe's mother grew feebler and feebler. One day, when her son was away, for he now frequently went into the woods to hunt or to fish, or down into the valley to work, she arose from her knitting to prepare the simple dinner. But she felt so weak and so tired that she was not able to do the work to which she had been so long accustomed. "Alas, alas," she said, "the time has come when I am too old to work. My son will have to hire someone to come here and to cook his meals, to make his bed, and to mend his clothes. Alas, alas, I had hoped that as long as I had lived, I should be able to do these things. But it is not so. I have grown utterly worthless, and someone else must prepare dinner for my son. I wonder where he is." And tottering to the door, she went outside to look for him. She did not feel able to stand, and reaching the rustic chair, she sank into it, quite exhausted, and soon fell asleep. The Dryad, who had often come to the cottage to see if she could find any opportunity of carrying out Old Pipe's affectionate design, now happened by, and seeing that the much desired occasion had come, she stepped up quietly behind the old woman and gently kissed her on each cheek, and then, just as quietly, disappeared. In a few minutes the mother of Old Pipes awoke, and looking up into the sun, she exclaimed, "Why, it is almost dinner time. My son will be here directly, and I am not ready for him." And rising to her feet, she hurried into the house, made the fire, set the meat and the vegetables to cook, laid the cloth, and by the time her son arrived, the meal was on the table. "How a little sleep does refresh one," she said to herself, as she was bustling about. She was a woman of very vigorous constitution, and at 70 had been a great deal stronger and more active than her son was at that age. The moment Old Pipes saw his mother, he knew that the Dryad had been there. But, while he felt as happy as a king, he was too wise to say anything to her. "It is astonishing how well I feel today," said his mother, "and either my hearing is improved, or you speak much more plainly than you have done of late." The summer days went on and passed by. The leaves were falling from the trees, and the air was becoming cold. "Nature has ceased to be lovely," said the Dryad, "and the night winds chill me. It is time for me to go back into my comfortable quarters in the great oak. But first I must pay another visit to the cottage of Old Pipes. She found the piper and his mother sitting side by side on the rock in the front of the door. The cattle were not to go to the mountain any more that season, and he was piping them down for the last time. Loud and merrily sounded the pipes of Old Pipes, and down the mountain side came the cattle, the cows by the easiest paths, and the sheep by those not quite so easy, and the goats by the most difficult ones among the rocks, while from the great oak tree were heard the echoes of the cheerful music. "How happy they look, sitting there together," said the Dryad, "and I don't believe it will do them a bit of harm to be still younger." And moving up quietly behind them, she first kissed Old Pipes on his cheek, and then his mother. Old Pipes, who had stopped playing, knew what it was, but he did not move, and he said nothing. His mother, thinking that his son had kissed her, turned to him with a smile and kissed him in return, and then she arose and went into the cottage, a vigorous woman of 60, followed by her son, erect and happy, and 20 years younger than herself. The Dryad sped away to the woods, shrugging her shoulders as she felt the cool evening wind. And when she reached the great oak, she turned the key and opened the door. "Come on out," she said to the Echo Dwarf, who sat blinking within. "Winter is coming on, and I want the comfortable shelter of my tree for myself. The cattle have come down from the mountain for the last time this year. The pipes will no longer sound, and you can go to your rocks and have a holiday until next spring." Upon hearing these words, the dwarf skipped quickly out, and the Dryad entered the tree and pulled the door shut after her. "Now then," she said to herself, "he can break off the key if he likes. It does not matter to me. Another will grow out next spring, and although the good piper made me no promise, I know that when the warm days arrive next year, he will come and let me out again." The Echo Dwarf did not stop to break the key of the tree. He was too happy to be released to think of anything else, and he hastened as fast as he could to his home on the rocky hillside. The Dryad was not mistaken when she trusted in the piper. When the warm days came, again he went to the oak tree to let her out. But, to his sorrow and surprise, he found the great tree lying upon the ground. A winter storm had blown it down, and it lay with its trunk shattered and split. And what became of the Dryad, no one ever knew. And so ends The Old Pipes and the Dryad. If you want the whole continuous story, you can find it on Gumroad, or come and join us over on Patreon. Until next time, dream sweetly.